welcome back to our channel on this beautiful day. We always love sharing these quiet, reflective moments with you, diving deep into the drama, the heartbreak, and the thrilling mysteries that keep us all so captivated. Grab a warm cup of tea, settle into your favorite comfortable chair, and let us explore the very latest shocking twists and turns together. As a longtime fan and someone who has spent decades analyzing the intricate storytelling of General Hospital, I have to admit that the current developments are keeping me entirely on the edge of my seat. For those of us who have followed the residents of Port Charles through thick and thin, through the golden eras of romance and the dark periods of espionage, there is a specific rhythm we come to expect. We know when a storyline is merely simmering and when it is about to boil over into absolute chaos. Right now, we are witnessing a masterful escalation of tension, a narrative crescendo that reminds me exactly why we have all dedicated so much of our time to this remarkable television series. The writers are weaving a complex web of deceit, loyalty, and sheer desperation. And I want to take this opportunity to break down exactly what is happening, why it matters, and how it impacts the characters we have grown to care for so deeply. Let us first address the massive revelation concerning Cassius and Cullum. Betrayal is a cornerstone of daytime drama, but there are different flavors of betrayal. There are crimes of passion, sudden moments of weakness, and then there is the cold, calculated manipulation that Cullum has subjected Cassius to. It has finally come to light that Cassius is fully aware that Cullum has been using him. As a critic, I find this development absolutely fascinating because it shifts the power dynamic entirely. For the longest time, we watched Cassius operate under a false set of assumptions, guided by a man he thought he could trust. To see the veil lifted, to witness Cassius realize that his strings were being pulled by Cullum, is a profound moment of character growth. How does a man process the realization that his recent actions and decisions were not entirely his own, but rather the result of a carefully orchestrated manipulation? It is a devastating blow to one's ego and sense of reality. However, instead of crumbling under the weight of this betrayal, Cassius is channeling that shock into a laser-focused determination. He is not wallowing in self-pity. He is waking up to the reality of his situation, and that makes him incredibly dangerous to those who wish to control him. This awakening leads us directly into the next staggering twist in the narrative. We were led to believe, much like Cassius was, that Britt was in the clutches of Huntington. It was a perfectly plausible scenario, one that fit neatly into the established conflicts we have been watching unfold. But the revelation that Huntington does not actually have Britt is a brilliant piece of misdirection by the writers. I have to applaud this choice. In an era where television plots can sometimes feel entirely predictable, throwing a curveball that completely invalidates the hero's primary assumption is a wonderful way to keep the audience guessing. When Cassius learns that Huntington is not the captor, the relief he might feel is instantly overshadowed by a much darker, more terrifying question. If Huntington does not have Britt, then who does, and where in the world is she? This unknown variable transforms a straightforward rescue mission into a frantic, terrifying mystery. Cassius's ultimate goal, of course, is to find Britt and bring her safely back to Port Charles. I want to pause here and reflect on what Port Charles represents in the context of General Hospital. For those of us who have watched for years, Port Charles is not just a setting, it is a character in its own right. It is a sanctuary, a place of healing, a community where, despite the constant drama, there is an underlying sense of family and belonging. Cassius wanting to bring Britt back to Port Charles is deeply symbolic. He is not just trying to save her life, he is trying to restore her to a place of emotional and physical safety. He wants to bring her home. This desire anchors the espionage and the action in a very relatable, deeply human emotion. We can all understand the desperate need to protect the people we care about and return them to a safe harbor. However, standing in the way of this noble goal is the true architect of this nightmare, the enigmatic and ruthless figure known as Z. Just when we thought the situation could not become any more complicated, the narrative introduces the chilling reality that Z is the one pulling the strings. And worse, Z is working in tandem with the WSB. Whenever the World Security Bureau is involved, longtime viewers know that the stakes are instantly elevated from local criminal enterprise to global espionage. The WSB brings a level of resources, bureaucracy, and cold-blooded calculation that our heroes are rarely prepared to face. Z is utilizing these resources to execute a plan that is as brilliant as it is cruel. The core of this plan relies on using Britt herself as the ultimate bait to deceive and trap Cassius. As a critic, I must express my absolute awe and simultaneous dread at how Z is manipulating this situation. Z understands that Cassius's love and desperation for Britt are his greatest vulnerabilities. By weaponizing Britt's status, Z is not just setting a physical trap. Z is engaging in profound psychological warfare. We are seeing Z and the WSB making constant, real-time adjustments to their strategy. These are not static villains waiting for the hero to arrive at their fortress. They are dynamic, reacting to Cassius's moves, anticipating his decisions, and shifting the board to ensure he remains perpetually off balance. This level of strategic adjustment is what makes Z such a formidable and terrifying antagonist. Every time Cassius thinks he has a lead, Z shifts the parameters, creating a labyrinth of lies and false hope. This continuous manipulation is having a severe, visible toll on Cassius. The narrative is explicitly showing us how this situation is breeding a deep, consuming obsession within him. Obsession is a dangerous emotion in the world of General Hospital. It clouds judgment, severs ties with rational allies, and pushes characters to take risks that they would otherwise never consider. We are watching Cassius become entirely consumed by the need to find Britt, to the point where his own safety is no longer a priority. Z's plan is designed to cultivate this exact obsession. By feeding Cassius breadcrumbs, by keeping the hope of rescuing Britt just barely alive, Z is ensuring that Cassius will walk willingly into whatever trap has been set. It is a heartbreaking descent to witness, especially for viewers who have rooted for Cassius to find peace and stability. Furthermore, I have to question whether Z's plan is actually spiraling out of control. The constant adjustments and the heavy-handed involvement of the WSB suggest that this operation is expanding beyond its original scope. Z is pushing the boundaries, driving the plan further and further into morally bankrupt territory. This escalation is creating an incredibly volatile environment. The danger is no longer just a hypothetical threat, it is an imminent, suffocating reality. By pushing the deception to such extreme lengths, Z is virtually guaranteeing that the eventual confrontation will be explosive and likely devastating for everyone involved. We must also consider the unseen suffering of Britt in this scenario. While the focus is heavily on Cassius's frantic search and Z's cold machinations, Britt is the pawn at the center of this geopolitical chessboard. Being used as bait by an organization like the WSB means she is likely subjected to intense psychological pressure, isolation, and the constant looming threat of violence. The writers are doing a fantastic job of building the tension around her absence. Sometimes the most powerful presence on screen is the character who is missing, because their absence dictates the actions of everyone else. Britt's peril is the engine driving this entire storyline, and the longer she remains in Z's clutches, the higher the emotional stakes become for the audience. I find myself deeply invested in how this will inevitably unravel. Will Cassius's obsession be his ultimate downfall, or will the sheer force of his determination allow him to see through Z's elaborate deceptions? The WSB is a massive, often impenetrable organization, and going up against them requires more than just passion. It requires strategy, alliances, and a great deal of luck. I believe that Cassius is currently too blinded by his betrayal from Cullum and his desperate need to save Britt to formulate a clear, rational plan. He is operating on pure adrenaline and heartbreak, which is exactly where Z wants him. If Cassius is going to survive this and actually bring Britt back to Port Charles, he is going to have to find a way to cool his burning obsession and outthink a master strategist. This storyline is a perfect example of why soap operas, and General Hospital in particular, remain such a vital and engaging form of storytelling. It requires patience from the audience. We are not given immediate gratification. Instead, we are asked to sit with the tension, to analyze the characters' motivations, and to feel the weight of their despair. For older viewers who have spent years watching the evolution of these families and these intricate plots, there is a deep appreciation for this kind of slow burn suspense. We remember the classic storylines where the odds seemed impossible, where the villains were truly terrifying, and where love was the only thing keeping the heroes going. This current arc with Cassius, Britt, Z, and the WSB feels like a wonderful homage to those classic eras, while still feeling fresh, modern, and incredibly urgent. In conclusion, while I am terrified for the safety of Britt and deeply concerned for the mental and physical well-being of Cassius, I am thoroughly enjoying the ride from a critical standpoint. The revelation of Cullum's manipulation set the stage, the Huntington misdirection twisted the plot, and the introduction of Z's WSB-backed psychological warfare has elevated the entire narrative to a masterpiece of suspense. The danger is rising, the obsession is deepening, and the road back to the safety of Port Charles has never looked more treacherous. I will be watching every single moment, analyzing every subtle adjustment Z makes, and hoping against hope that Cassius can find the clarity he needs to bring Britt home. The coming weeks are sure to be explosive, and I cannot wait to see how the writers resolve this beautifully constructed nightmare.